Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Karina from the Matura Express. It's exam day today, so what you have to expect from me or from us is a trial exam on the topic the work of world. I'll briefly talk you through the task again. I did that a fortnight ago, but that was, as I said, that was a fortnight ago, so there you might not remember what it was all about. I'll quickly talk you through it, and then it's Timna's turn. You'll get to know her in a sec. That's not important for you. So in your exams, as I always keep repeating, you always have the topic in the in one of the corners, depending on like the layout. You get two topics to pick from, so a glance in the right or the left-hand corner tells you what the topic is. Then you always have two different tasks. First one is the individual long turn, you talking monologue. Should be approximately 4 to 5 minutes, but then it usually also includes a short introduction. So you tell the audience or the exam board who you are, why you decided to do the A-levels, why you decided to do English exams, if there's anything that you want to do with them afterwards, going to university or whatever. So that's usually also included in the 5 minutes, so it's not as bad as it sounds, really. You always have a situation, the word's missing here. Does that work now? If I type yes, situation. Fantastic. I'm just about to figure out technology, proud of myself. You always have a situation, so you are a certain person. You are not yourself, so you are not, I don't know, person X, Y. But you are given a role, usually not a name, but a role. And a situation that you are in. In this case, it's the good old presentation in your economics class, because economics and work kind of goes together, that kind of fits. So you hold a presentation in your economics class in English, because that was, in economics classes, that's not really impossible. Like, you can hold presentations in English in an economics class. You've read the text on the third page for input. You have a text. We did deal with the text a while ago, so if you need to, if you need more information on the text, there's still a stream that you can go back to. Gives you bullet points that should help you to answer bullet points 1 and 2 for the individual long turn. Usually you get a text that helps you with at least 2 bullet points. That's a really hard word. The third one in this case is knowledge outside of the text, like stuff that you should know because you prepared for them beforehand. That's what you kind of can call common knowledge, like it's kind of Allgemeinbildung to be able to talk about the glass ceiling. We have the same concept in German. It's actually called Glasdecke in German as well. So, you read about the concept in newspapers almost, so you should know what it is. Unequal pay, a very frequently discussed topic in politics, always an issue in every election and so on and so forth. The gender gap, quite frequently discussed as well. Is it true that men still earn more than women do in certain professions, especially in leading positions? What do you think? Is it true, yes or no? Is the gender gap as big as some people claim it is? And the quota systems, you've probably heard about them as well. There's other countries that have way stricter laws in terms of quota systems, especially the UK does. But Austria has a quota system as well. So in bigger companies, there have to be women in in leading positions, and should be kind of an equal balance between men and women. There's also quota systems regulating or giving incentives at least to companies that hire people with physical or mental disabilities, also falls in the category of a quota system. Other countries have way stricter rules on that, as I said, especially the UK, because they are very much about, equality and equal rights. So you could include that in point 3. There's no information as to point 3 in the text, so if you have a third bullet point that is not covered by the text, then that's stuff that you should know, really, because it's common knowledge. In the paired activity, that's slightly longer because there's 2 people speaking, but you as the exam taker should still get enough speaking time so as for the exam board to be able to like evaluate and assess what you say. The first words are important: compare and contrast the pictures. So compare, so what do the pictures have in common? Obviously they show some like work situation. The aspect the aspect that they definitely differentiate in is like the sort of work that the people are doing. Probably also the requirements and the skills that you need for the respective jobs. That's what Timna will explain to you in more detail, I hope. Personal experiences, that's your time to shine, really, because you can talk about whatever you want, really. Internships, summer jobs you had or didn't have, that you made up, whatever. Just come up with some sort of personal experience that you can talk about. Talk about the challenges and the benefits. I guess the easiest would be if you, in a question like that, picked a certain age. I don't know, you were 16 when you had your first summer job, and it was hard because you were still quite young and your co-workers were considerably older than you and whatever. But the benefits were you had money, your friends from school didn't, and so on and so forth. So quite easy one, quite a nice one. A topic that kind of invites you to speculate a little, the good old reflect on the good old times and on the present. Talk about changes that have occurred in the world of work, comparing now and 50 years ago. Like what was different when your parents thought their first jobs or when they did their internships or whatever they did. That's not a knowledge question, really. It's more like, what do you think? And nice because you can talk about what you know and kind of steer the conversation into the direction that you want to steer it into. You also have visuals because, in this case, for the compare and contrast, they'll help you to talk about the different sorts of jobs, give you some ideas on what to talk about. That's the exam, a short glimpse on the text again. But as I said, there's an in-depth analysis of or kind of an in-depth analysis on the text in one of the streams. So it's not that important that you've read the text, it's important that she has. So let's find out if she has actually. Are you ready?
I am. Yep.
That's Timna, by the way. Say hi out there.
Back again.
Say hi out there in front of your screens. So she's gonna be doing her, I don't know how, like there's been a good many Matura exams that she's been doing already. More to come, I suppose. So, good evening.
Good evening.
You're here to do your A-levels today.
Yes, exactly, I am.
Would you mind to introduce yourself very quickly?
Well, my name is Timna. I'm 20 years old and I'm here today to hold a presentation, actually, on the challenges in the working world for young adults, for youth who have just graduated from school.
That sounds fantastic, actually.
Yes. So that's what I'm going to be talking about now. And actually what I think that, so if you have just graduated from school and you're entering the working world like as fresh, with a fresh start, so to say, there are a few requirements that you have to have that maybe young people don't really think about or have to get used to at the beginning. So of course you have to be open for new people, for new challenges, opportunities, all that. Especially because in the working environment you will probably be surrounded by a wide range of people from different backgrounds, from different ages, different walks of life, who will have maybe more experience than you, maybe less experience than you, probably more experience because you have none. Yeah, so there's that, which isn't really the case in university. So you'll definitely have to get accustomed to the fact that there are people that know more than you, that are just higher kind of in the work ladder, if you want to say that. And you'll have to realize that you're going to have to climb that ladder, and you're going to have to build up a kind of confidence with your new co-workers. You'll have to learn to also maybe be a bit independent, see work that has to be done, maybe also see problems that have to be solved on your own, not just when somebody tells you you have to do something, you do it, but maybe you can also see by yourself that there is something to do. So those are some skills that you, or some problems that you might face at the beginning. Also, something that you might not be used to, or that you might surprise you, especially if you're a woman like I am, is the gap between genders. So, unfortunately, it's still the fact is still that women are very often paid significantly less than men in a wide variety of jobs. And also that there's often less women in higher positions than men, which, there are actually many companies that try to counteract that by having certain kind of counts, or that wanna, I don't know how to say that. There are certain companies that want to have like the same amount of women and men in their company, which is also a problem, because then you're again maybe not so much looking at what the skills are of a person that you're hiring, but maybe more what, like, is it a man, is it a woman? Which, that shouldn't be the focus. It should kind of go by itself, that there's like more women or more men that have the skills to do the work, right? So that's, I think, quite a difficult topic to talk about, because there's so many opinions about it. There's lots of views that have pros and cons. Of course, the same thing goes not only for men and women, but also for people from different backgrounds, maybe even skin colors, disabilities, all that. That's a whole other discussion, but it's all kind of in the works, and people are talking about it. People are expressing their views, and kind of it's all evolving.
Hopefully.
So that's that.
Do you think Austria is doing fine in terms of, especially when it comes to like the quotas and the equality thing?
I think, there's some companies that do and some that don't. Again, that's quite a difficult question to answer, like whether it's good to have this, good to have the same amount of men and women with the skills and all that. But I feel like Austria is evolving in the right direction. I don't think it's quite there yet.
But getting there. Getting there. Would you then, like, summarizing what you just said, you would say it's okay if there's more men in a company, if the selection had been fair? Exactly. Or it's okay if there are more women if the selection had been fair? Yeah.
In my view, it has to be more the focus on the skills rather than the gender, right? Just
take the best person available, kind of thing. Exactly. As there was elections not too long ago in Austria, was it a topic? Like, are there parties that talk about the equality thing?
Definitely.
Big deal in other countries?
Yes, definitely. Of course, there's some parties that talk about that more, some parties that talk about that less, but this is always, I feel like, a big topic in elections, because there's so many strong views about that, and people feel quite strongly.
Yeah, so it would be addressed in the elections, definitely, trying to get votes and stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Well, now we've been talking a whole lot about like the general aspect of the whole thing. Let's get a bit more personal. You have 3 pictures of like jobs. Would you mind to like briefly point out what you see, or?
Of course not. So here we have 3 pictures that depict 3 different types of jobs, actually. The first one, I would say, is a factory worker who is standing in the same spot all day long, doing some quite monotonous work, I'd say. Who was always inside, who doesn't really have a lot of social context, so it's, in my opinion, not such an interesting job maybe, but of course it has to be done as well. There's people that like doing that, of course.
True.
Then on the contrast to that, we have a farmer who is of course working very hard, especially it's a hard physical work, but then again he's always outside, he has fresh air, he's always surrounded by animals, which might be a pro or con depending on whether you like animals.
I hope you do if you're a farmer, like, you know.
Yeah.
If you happen to be a farmer and you hate cows, then you're kind of not very lucky.
Well, yeah, he's also in nature, has lots of activity, so he's quite independent, so there's also a few pros and cons about that. The last job then is also completely different, is an office job, I'd say, where, well, you just sit at a desk all day long. You're inside, but you have a lot of colleagues to talk to share your views with, your work with. So there's 3 very different types of work who all. There's people who want to do each one of them. So I think it's important to have lots of different choices.
Definitely. What would be your kind of approach? Like, if you could choose, like.
I'm not sure. I think actually maybe the office job, because I actually did some work in a factory as a summer job once, and after 4 weeks of sorting small gemstones in a factory we won't address now.
I guess our audience kind of knows what we're talking about.
you get a bit fed up with that. So yeah, it's not really for me. Then also I have a lot of respect for animals, so I do like them, but I'm not sure if I could handle like a cow, for example, very well, because they're quite big. I have a fear of getting trampled. And all that. Also, I'm not the strongest person physically. So there's that.
So you see yourself in an office, kind of, yeah. Are you a team player?
I am, yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
Quite nice person to have around in the office, and
I hope so.
So you talked about your internship, sort of. Yeah. So the challenge was that it was a kind of monotonous thing.
Exactly, yeah. And that was my first job I did. I then also had I worked a few summers in a bakery, which is a quite different work, but then again you do the same thing every day, all day long, but there's also other people involved, and not only your co-workers, but also people that come in the shop to buy something, which you have to treat nicely and with respect. And sometimes, people can get a bit annoying. Yep,
I can imagine. Like, I never did a job like that, but I can totally. Yeah.
So that was interesting as well, but it definitely showed me like what the real working world is like, and why I am wanting to go to uni now. That
definitely makes sense. Yeah. But then you were, compared to your classmates, you were probably super rich at the end of the summer, and you were able to go to summer festivals and parties, and they weren't. And well, you could show off your money, Yeah. Well, do you think that, like, you're quite young, but you may not know so much about the past, but you probably talk to your parents or even grandparents or friends or whatever. Do you think that our attitude to work has changed? Do we work differently than our parents did, kind of?
Yes, I do think so. I think especially there's different types of work now. There's less of these like factory jobs where you don't really have to have a lot of skills. You just do something like a machine basically, which many of those jobs are actually now done by machines and not by people anymore. So there's less and less jobs like that, and more jobs that require higher education, which is why more people go to uni. And so that's kind of a different a difference that I noticed, and that also my parents talk about quite a lot.
What about job flexibility, changing jobs and stuff? Are you planning on doing the same thing for the rest of your life? Or can you see yourself doing different stuff?
I think that's definitely another thing that has changed quite a lot over the years. That nowadays it's not very usual anymore to have one job for like all your life, but rather you maybe stay in one field, but you try out different things. You change your job more often. So I think that's definitely something that's also in my future.
So you cannot see yourself spend the rest, like the next 50 years in the same spot kind of thing?
I mean, we'll see, but I don't think that'll happen. No.
Well, I guess I couldn't imagine doing that here. Yeah, I think that was it. That was time's up anyway. Thank you very much for a very interesting talk. Okay, so we are out of our roles again, and yeah, so there's actually, if my technical skills would suffice to open, they do, grand. That was quick for my standards. I'll quickly tell you a couple of things that I noted down that would be, or that are very good pieces of advice for you. One thing that she did very well was that she was sort of trying to give us an overview at the beginning of the exam what she's going to talk about. She did not go through all the bullet points, but then she doesn't really have to, or you don't really have to in the exam. Now it's all about you, because one thing that you can assume is that your interlocutors have the same sheets that you have in front of them, so they kind of know what to expect, but then still you should give them a quick guideline, kind of the red thread through the whole thing, because in your preparation time you may have changed the order a little bit, or you may have like one bullet point that you want to especially focus on, or add something to the bullet point, because in the 30 minutes of preparation time you thought, might be interesting, is not in the text, is not in the questions, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So an overview, especially if there's like sort of new aspects that you kind of introduce, so as to not like lose your audience. As soon as especially the interlocutor, as soon as he or she gets lost, it's probably bad for you, because it could lead to a communication breakdown as soon as the interlocutor doesn't really know where you are, what you're talking about. One thing that you could prepare, especially for the in the monologue, you have time to like use some sayings or some metaphors that you learned in the course of time, because in the 30 minutes preparation time for the monologue, that's the only thing that you can really prepare. The dialogue is really a bit more spontaneous. Prove that you deal well with English. Write down a couple of like really intelligent words, intelligent introductions, intelligent linking words, some kind of metaphors. Can't remember really which one she used. That's what happens when I don't write stuff down, but it was a really good one. She was like trying to really include nice language, and you can do that as well, especially in the preparation time, and then, write them down, highlight them, big fan of highlighters, and then just, include them somewhere. It gives you extra points for the range and vocabulary point, which is point number 3 in the scale. One thing that people are sometimes afraid of are corrections. If you, or like the back channeling kind of thing, if you notice that you just made a mistake, if you notice early enough and if you can still repair your sentence, do so. I would probably not like repeat whole paragraphs and whole full sentences, but if there's one or two words that you want to kind of correct yourself on, if it's a beautiful versus a beautifully, and then you kind of notice, well, should have used an adverb there, do so. You can definitely correct yourself. It only proves that you kind of, hear your own mistakes, and yeah, you can kind of do corrections. Some students are kind of reluctant to like really point because it's kind of pointing to the mistake, which is probably true if you do it too often. But if you notice, as I said, if there should have been a beautifully instead of a beautiful, just, add it if you think about it, because it proves that you know your grammar. Okay, I think that was it. It was a very nice exam, very well done. So yeah, very nice topic as well, because you can include a lot of like personal information, guide the dialogue a little bit in the direction that you wanted to, talk a lot about your summer jobs, because that always gives you something to talk about. And the 8 to 10 minutes will be up in like no time. Anyway, this was it from the trial exam. Me and Timna say good night. Thank you very much.